Good morning and welcome to our webinar on reaching out to families and students. I'm Jennifer Hagerman and I'm joined this morning by Lori Hersick. We are TAC staff developers for the Lincoln Intermediate Unit. If you've joined us for some of our previous webinars, you probably have seen some of the next few slides that we'll go through. I'm going to go through them kind of quickly because you've probably seen them, but this here just shows you the large team. It's been a complete team effort to come up with the content for our website, the LearnOn website. There are not only the webinars and the office hours that some of you may have attended, but there are also a multitude of resources within the tabs that you'll find on that page. We do have some webinar meeting norms that we kind of want to go over this morning. You'll notice that your chat, microphone, and cameras have been disabled due to the large size of the attendee group. This is different than your educator accounts, but because this Zoom room is larger, we want to make sure that with the bandwidth, we can cover everything we need to cover without any glitches. There also will be a Q&A. There is a Q&A spot at the bottom of your screen, you'll notice. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please post them there, and we have people monitoring those, and we'll try to get back with you and answer as many questions as we can. And also, you'll notice, don't leave before you get the Act 48 credit link. Some people have been noticing it comes up automatically. We will provide those in the chat as we go through today's webinar. But make sure you get that Act 48 credit. You'll also take notice that on the LearnOn homepage, there is a webinar archive. All of our webinars will be are recorded, and they will be available for those of you who can't attend in person. You can always go back and listen to those later. And again, we want to just have you take note that our LearnOn.iu12.org webpage has some awesome resources. If you look at the top, there are tabs for educators, administration, and parents. And please take the time to look through those. Our team has put a lot of resources on there for you. In looking at the changing expectations for this new online platform, we need to continue to provide that continuity of education, and also considering the FAPE. We need to make sure that whatever services we're providing for the general education population, that we're providing the equal opportunities and access for those students that have disabilities. And when we look at those best practices, we want to remember when we're looking at the online platform that less is more. We need to make sure that we provide what they need in a nice, succinct way. When we talk about videos, they do need to see your face. It's very important. No more than 6 minutes. Kind of get that stuff down as fast as you can and be clear. Let them know what you expect from them, how long it should take them, and then how they need to turn that back into you. That's really important for the kiddos. I'm now going to turn the rest of our presentation over to Lori to take you through the remainder of the information for you today.
Good morning. Our webinar outcomes today in particular are we want to talk about some best practices when it comes to communicating with families. We're now a few days into this process, so we've had some feedback from teachers, from parents, from our own experiences in our own households. So we want to just share some of that with you. We want to provide some strategies for building rapport with your families. You've already probably had that rapport with your students, but how to continue that. Ideas for documenting that communication that you're doing, because we really want to make sure we have an idea of who we're connecting with and who we're missing, and then ways to support those learners and families, and then a plan of action for moving forward. So this slide is directly from the best practices information that is on our LIU online LearnOn website. Be sure to follow whatever your district guidelines are. If they want you to use a particular platform, it's because your tech people and your administration have vetted that program or platform or whatever it is, and they know that the security is there that needs to be there, and that is a platform that they're willing to stand behind. So if you choose to use something different, you may not be covered if something happens that's negative, and we don't want you to be in that situation. Your communication should always include goals and objectives for your students, what support systems are available to them, and the work that they'll need to be complete. Make those directions as succinct and as simple as possible. Remember, parents are not educators, and they are in a difficult situation right now having to help their child. And then help the parents understand those expectations. We have a really great link on our online learning parent resource page, which I have seen districts, my own home district has shared out. And I think that that's a great page that's simple information for parents to follow. We really want to build rapport through the empathy with our parents. I think when you make that first connection, which you've probably already had, start talking to them about how things are going. We're now in the third week of a very unexpected situation. Families are trying to balance work or being out of work. They're trying to balance now being the educators and full-time caregivers of their children when they're used to not having them home during the day. This is just the entire stress of this situation is a lot. So it really is important just to connect with your families and see where they're at. If you have families that are really struggling, are there support systems within your school system or within your community that you can guide them to? Have an idea. I bet your guidance counselors, and if you have social workers within your school, have resources that they can connect families with. So make sure we're still, one thing about a school system is we really are the heart of a community. And I think that we've got to take that role really, has to be really in what we do right now, because we are the one safe community organization for families to reach out to without being judged. And so just know your resources in your community or know who to reach out to for help. Remember, we're all in this together. Don't be afraid to share your own vulnerability. We have had webinars where we've had a child run into the room. We've had webinars that we've made mistakes on, and we are all human beings trying to figure this out right now. So don't be afraid with your families to show them that you're learning with them. I think that will go a long way with families. And then tell them too that we do not expect them to be perfect, that we're working on this together. These first couple of weeks, if we send work home and it's too much or it's too little, let's have some give and take going back and forth and trying to work with them to find out what's going to work, because this is going to create relationships that'll last into the future with our school systems. And it's really important that we show we're there for them. Resource check, make sure you know, you've probably already done this, but what devices and programs do they have access to? What help do they need to get started? I know our school district has already reached out, not only through our teachers, but we've had a tech person from the district make contact and just give us their information. So if we have trouble, it's one more person we can contact to get help if our teachers aren't sure. And then what other alternatives are available if people don't have technology? One thing that has come into the conversation that I would have never have known is that if kids have gaming systems, do you realize that that can connect through the internet and can help them? If parents have cell phones, we may be able to connect in that way, even through some type of Zoom chat on the telephone, or goodness gracious, an old-fashioned phone call. Who would have thought actually having a conversation over the phone would be what we would have to resort to? But whatever we're doing to connect with families, and then helping them problem solve through some of those connections, because they right now aren't, and maybe not in the right mind to think through some of those alternatives, but we can help them with that. A huge part of communicating with parents is document. This has not been talked about a lot, but it really, really is important to keep some kind of log and write down every time you reach out to a family. With general ed students, just keep some kind of general class log, maybe a class list that you make up, and note on there when I sent something out to the whole group and when I've had individual contacts with families and with the students, and make yourself little notes. We had problems with this and this was fixed, or I'm not, make sure you know, so that if at the end of the week you have a particular student or couple of students who you have not been able to make any contact with, you might refer them to the next level of a guidance counselor or your school principal or whatever your process is going to be. But make sure we're connecting with every student. And I'll tell you, with connecting with every student, we have to be mindful of the number of connections we're making. We have had horror stories. We have somebody who has 2 children there, and they got 41 emails in one day. And we're professionals, and if that's overwhelming to us, imagine how it is to a parent who is also working full-time or something like that. So think about the amount of communication and coordinate that between teachers, especially at that middle school and high school level, where you have multiple teachers interacting with a family. It can get overwhelming. If you have 3, 4, 5 children, think of the amount of emails and phone calls you're getting right now. So make some kind of concerted effort to share information between each other. And so we're making those contacts meaningful and to the point and not overwhelming families. So again, make sure you know what your district's policy is on recording those communications and be extremely aware of student privacy concerns. Then when we talk about special ed, gifted, and English language learners, it's really important to have some kind of log where anybody involved with that child can log time in with them. I have a sample log on here that I wanted to show, and this has been what we've been sharing uh, across our all 3 county areas. This was actually shared with us at a curriculum council meeting, and this is just a good way that you can date what date you contacted, what was the focus of the contact, who provided that contact. A special ed case manager can make up a simple log like this, share it with every teacher that's in contact or every service provider in contact with that particular student, and then they can all fill in when they make contact with that family so that everyone's on the same page. And if I come on to date and I see, wow, that family's already been contacted 5 times today, how about I wait till tomorrow morning to reach out, because they might be a little overwhelmed. So coordinate your efforts in a way that is working for families. This really is important because later when we have to prove that we provided FAPE, and right now we're under this guide of a good faith effort, those logs are going to be imperative. When we can say we reached out to this family and these were the contacts we made and we spoke with the parents on this date, we can show that we have done all that we possibly could, and that's going to be really important down the road. With supporting our students, we want to make sure they see you in some way. It is important that they see your face. If it's a picture, if it's a video Zoom, it is so important that they see you and what makes you unique. If you decorate your classroom with penguins, have penguins in your background. If you play guitar in the hallway, play a song and video it and send it to them. We have a colleague whose husband is a jokester at school, and he's been sending them a daily joke, and we laugh. Are they funny dad jokes? But those things that would have made you unique in the classroom, continue that with your kids so that they feel some normalcy in their life. Our supervisor sends us a quote of the day or thought of the day. And when we were not at work, he wasn't sending them. And then the first day back to work, he did. And I thanked him because that was my normalcy. That was the way I begin my day. And it means a lot, those simple little things. When connecting with peers online, if you do group Zooms and Google Classroom type things, just again, beware of your district policies, beware of things like special ed. If you're joining a group of students with IEPs for the purpose of IEP support, beware that you're disclosing disability at that time. So find out what your district policy is on that. But if you're just getting together as a science class, it's good for the kids to see each other a little bit. Also, let them know office hours when you're available to them to ask questions and get help with work, and let them know you do really understand their situation and we're going to work through this together. We put some resources in here. Parent self-care is really important. There are a lot of parents, like again, we're balancing so much. I'm a parent too. We've got to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of our families. And how do we deal with stress in children? This link has different age groups and what can be appropriate at each age group. If you scan down, they have their preschool, school age, and an adolescence, and talks about what some of the symptoms of that stress might be and then how to handle it. So that's a good resource. There's also, if parents are working from home, some schedulings for balancing that. There's a great NPR podcast on some parenting ideas, how to avoid power struggles with your kids. We have that on a regular basis, let alone now that our kids are home 24/7. And so we've helping kids set up schedules and things like that are really important. And then we put some links in there about how parents can communicate with their children about coronavirus itself. We want to make sure that we do not have a 24-hour news feed on with this stressful information, that our kids are not going to be at a level that they can process. So make sure we're talking to them about it. So plan of action and next steps, try to establish some routines that the families can expect. I've already had the experience, and again, I'm not blaming my teacher at all because we're all learning this, but I'm used to getting notifications on this little Blooms app that we have, and she started sending emails, and we don't always check our home email as much, and I missed some things. We're caught up now, and it's all good, and we learn together, but think about that. Find one way to communicate with families and try to stick with that as a first resort. Then from there, schedule, okay, through that app, we're going to have a Zoom meeting at 2:00, but make them aware through that, whatever that platform is that you're communicating, stick with that first so that they know and know when to expect information from you. And then consider with parents what that information is going to look like. Some parents may not have access to the same resources. So what are we going to do to set up communication with them? That is all that we had in our discussion. I have our contact information there. You, by all means, please, if we have more questions, we'll answer those. But we can also, we have a couple of more minutes that we can stay in this Zoom room. But after that, if you want to continue the conversation, we'll join another Zoom room just to have some discussion. But Jen, were there any questions or anything that you'd want to share?
There's nothing at this time. We do have somebody with their hand raised. So I am going to give that person permission to speak for a second and see if there's a question that they have.
Do we have them unmuted?
I'm trying.
They may have put their hand down, but I do think there is someone else with their hand raised.
I see Jack Mackley. I'm not sure. I'm not able to answer him. Can someone else give him permission to speak?
I see. Okay, hang on. There.
Hello?
Hello, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Good.
I tried to get an account on Bitly this morning, and it did not have teacher as one of the categories. Is there a teacher site for Bitly?
I can answer that. There is not a teacher site for Bitly. Bitly is just kind of any user can use. You don't really need a teacher site because really you're just putting links in there and grabbing a short link really fast. So there isn't a teacher. It should be for free though. You can get a basic account for free.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I see we also have a question. How does a teacher who has the entire student body reach out in a way that covers the discussion? There really are no easy answers. I would start with things like a group email to reach out to make. There are some ways to like blanket send out information and then maybe put smaller groups together for discussion. Like if I had a huge group of students, I might put them into small groups of 5 or 10 and do small discussion groups with them in Zoom rooms instead of trying to do everybody at one time. You can maybe give ways that they can give feedback individually. Nicole, are there any other ways like ways through technology that you can set up group discussions that you would know of?
Well, I have seen some districts actually open up and do a flip grid where the principal has posted kind of an open grid for parents. I have seen like an FAQ, sort of like we have on our homepage, where there's a form there where anyone can submit their questions, and then as questions are answered, they're then posted into a Word document. If you're looking more like a newsletter, you want to send a blanket newsletter, I do know that SMORE, that's SMORE.com, and I can throw that into the chat. They have some free actual templates that are already out there for teachers to use with SMORE. Now, SMORE is a freemium service. You can do so much with it for free, and then there's a subscription fee. But I have used that in the past, and I find that SMORE is great because you can embed video as well as forms and other resources in it if that's something that might help solve that problem.
Great, thank you. Like you said, there really is no easy answer when you have a huge group. If we can send things out to the group and then get responses back, and then it's kind of, we're gonna have to problem solve and work through this as it goes and find out what works for you and what your district has also given you permission to use as well.
I think the other thing we need to remember too is just that if we can coordinate our efforts, like Lori had mentioned, with having some kind of a spreadsheet that we know who has contacted who, so that we're not all continuing to contact. If there's something specific for your class that you want to share with the teachers, but somebody else has already contacted that parent, maybe wait till the next time they want to contact and share your information with that teacher, so that we're not all trying to contact the parents at the same time. I think that's a good thing to remember also.
Absolutely. And one thing that keeps coming up over and over and over again, this cannot be like your typical school day. That you have to consider the amount of work that you're assigning, that parents are not able to assist their children 7 hours a day the way that we could as educators. And if you have students, especially in middle school and high school, who have several teachers, we have to be communicating with each other as teams to know what's being assigned, so that we are balancing workloads for families. Because at this point, it's not just about the student, it's a family effort. And if a family is working and has multiple children in the home, this can get overwhelming for them very quickly. And we do not want families tuning out. We really want them to stay on board so that kids are continuing to receive some type of education. So we really have to work with them and make this work for our families. And that's not something we've ever had to work around before. So please, just with grace, listen to them and get feedback from them, and talk as a faculty about what's appropriate for your school. And every school is going to be different. Your demographic is different than the school district beside you. So just hear them. That's the biggest thing, is hear each other and support each other. So if we don't have any questions, I think we'll go ahead and close out this recording. And again, please feel free to join us in the other Zoom room if you want more individualized information. We'll be glad to help you in any way we can. We're all working this out together. I can't promise we have every answer, but we'll be here to help. Don't be afraid to reach out to us.